Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure being here in front of so many real faces. We heard a lot about tokenization in the last few days, about this morning also about CryptoKitties. Today's talk is a little bit related to the current situation that we observe in the tokenization space. Thanks a lot. And it's the time when apes, punks, and also kitties dominate the headlines. Some people ask themselves, is the next Tulip Mania really that far? So this is a screenshot really from OpenSea. You can buy virtual tulips, and this is one of the kind of observations that we are doing these days. So the presentation today is a bit about digital art, innovation, or Tulip Mania. What are key success factors to have digital art as innovation and not as a bubble that just bursts? Cutting-edge technologies in the digital art space have prominently been in the headlines. I guess the most famous one is Every Day is the First 5,000 Days by People, which was sold recently for $69 million US. Another headline of which I'm also a little bit proud of together with my team is that we tokenized Picasso. On the left-hand side, we see an NFT, a non-fungible token. On the right-hand side, we see an AST. An AST is a kind of a new abbreviation that came out of the situation that we were creating fungible token related to art, representing ownership. So what's important to understand, and I will deep dive a little bit on that later, is it's not an SPV that we're tokenizing, so it's true ownership, direct ownership in a concrete art piece. When you have a look at the NFT market, these are just two samples that we have been observing over the past few weeks and months. We see that NFT expands in terms of completed sales, but also in terms of the amount of sales that happens on the chain is tremendously growing these days. So we see on the left-hand side that the NFT expands, the NFT market has reached a kind of a sales value of more than 2.5 billion compared to an art market which has been in 2019, 2022 at roughly 50 billion. So it's still small, but as we can see, it's growing tremendously. On the NFT sales side, we observe numbers that are now higher than 1 million sales on a rolling base over 30 days. I mentioned it initially, key success factors. What makes such digital art pieces a success also going forward? This is kind of the 5 factors that we identified over the past few weeks and months, which creates value add at the end for the issuer, the owner of a token, as well as the investor. We start with the end-to-end perspective. This is the only real presentation slide about the Sygnum offering, and I don't really want to go too much into that. But what my message is here, it's important to have the whole value chain covered end to end. Because imagine you need to collaborate with the technical issuer, you need to get a lawyer helping you to structure the asset, you need a trading venue where you can then trade your token. This is currently a reality, and everyone is asking me, where are the process efficiencies? Why should I tokenize something where I create more complexity than in the traditional world? And that's basically our solution, having 3 products, Designate as a primary market platform, Synex as a regulated and kind of FINMA-approved organized trading facility, and related also to Thomas' speech before, the stablecoin, which allows us to avoid the risk asymmetry when trading on-chain assets. So if we trade the token on-chain, we need to have the fiat leg, the stability leg, kind of in minds of many people, also settled on-chain, which is kind of important to avoid this T+2 leg. Second success factor, no tokenization just for the sake of tokenization. I guess this is one of the most important messages. There are so many people coming also to us, Sygnum, asking, so what can I do with tokenization? Let's talk a little about, can I tokenize A? Can I tokenize B? But at the end of the day, important is to understand the motivation. Why do you want to tokenize? What do you want to unlock as terms of benefits, as terms of kind of value add? This is a kind of a summary which evolved over the past few months when we were having our clients' discussions. So many people were approaching us. Oh, can I tokenize an NFT? Can I create NFTs kind of to raise money for art pieces? And the fact is, yes, you can, but maybe it's not the solution that you need. So simply spoken, it's like we can create one NFT, one token which is non-fungible, which represents, for example, the Mona Lisa in this example. The second part is like we create many NFTs for one art piece. So at the end of the day, you have like the bottom left corner of Mona Lisa, you have the eye, maybe you have a different price for the hair, for the ears, I don't know. And out of the discussion we had, in particular also with the tokenization of the Picasso, was we actually want to create fractionalization. We want to allow many investors to participate in the long-term value appreciation of such an asset. And that's the reason why we created fungible tokens, because we understood that what our clients want to achieve is a fungibility solution, a fungible solution, and a fractionalization. What we then created is this AST, this Art Security Token. And the Art Security Token is basically a combination, the best of both worlds. A traditional investment vehicle can be a fund, can be an SPV, where you have then, or where you become owner of a fund unit, for example. And on the other hand, we have the art for enjoyment, people saying, oh, I want to buy this Picasso, put it in my room, and I'm the owner, I can decide what happens. So what we did, we were kind of taking the economical participation through financial securitization. So we created a financial instrument, giving investors a long-term opportunity to participate in the value appreciation. Second, we wanted to kind of to unlock this emotional attachment. And this is important. If you're owner of a fund unit, you're not the owner of the art piece. You are you're kind of in a state of indirect ownership. The third point that we try to kind of also solve is kind of an interesting motivation for tokenization is how can I leverage existing artwork that is my own to leverage my investment portfolio. Goes also into the direction of making non-bankable assets bankable at the end of the day. And last but not least, we try to include and bring in and connect some of the rights and the kind of the claims that come out of the traditional world of equities, for example. So the decision-making power, be it like with voting rights, with exit rights of such an investment, was one of the important features that were the result out of this kind of assessment together with the client. Third point for today, the regulation and trust. I guess for pure tokenization, you don't need a banking license, but at the end of the day, it's key to have reputation. And this is kind of an example that might be known by many of you. It has been shared many times on Twitter. So if someone creates an NFT, I can buy my own NFT at the valuation, in this case, for 2 million. I can kind of show on the blockchain that there was a transaction of 2 million. I can then sell it to someone else at the discount, can be 90%, and at the end of the day, I end up with 2.2 million ETH. I guess the latest story just this morning about this flash loan transaction in the NFT space. So for those that haven't read this morning, just Google like flash loan transaction NFT this morning, and you will find the latest update exactly showing this risk. Risk can be summarized in kind of different characters. So we have an immature market, a young market, new innovation is being driven. We have the most important question, what does happen when we tokenize an underlying? When I tokenize Mona Lisa or just another art piece and I create an NFT or also fungible tokens, what happens if I sell the tokens? Who has the claim to get access to this physical art piece? And the third important point I want to highlight is also the transfer of ownership. I've recently been in a panel where an artist mentioned, oh, NFT are a great way to make revenues without selling IP. So the it's often not clear what are the contractual claims that you get when you're selling, for example, an NFT. There are definitely also other risks, which are pretty known to many of us. There's a potential for scammers. It's a completely unregulated market yet, and it's a young technology. There are new protocols evolving, and these are definitely risks being considered when investing in such digital art. And regarding the third point, also kind of an important quote: if you think that compliance is expensive, try non-compliance at the end of the day. And this, I guess, summarizes best how important this aspect is as a key success factor. The fourth point that I want to highlight is really accept that it's pioneering. We're creating something new. We are in a young market. We're creating new products. So this is how we did the tokenization. These were the headlines, and kind of the important statement out of this different kind of headlines is not everyone was really understanding what we're doing. So, for example, Masterpieces, Swiss bank issuing NFT shares in Picasso painting for 6K each. So people understanding NFTs are creating headlines, and at the end of the day, you end up with NFTs in the headlines, even if you do fungible tokens. Coming again a bit to this pioneering aspect of our AST. What did we include? What did we create new? We included an investment horizon. So if you get owner of this Picasso token, you have an investment horizon of 5 to 8 years. 5 years kind of a lockup period, and then 3 years in which the administrator, which brings me to the different roles, is kind of committed to sell the art piece and to get the cash flows back to the investors. So we created really a financial instrument. As I mentioned, there's an administrator, there is a manager, there's a custodian of the art piece. As we're having a physical art piece or a kind of artwork, we need to have it custodized, be it in a bonded warehouse, be it in a kind of in a vault. Voting and exit rights are pretty important. Just imagine someone is coming like after 2 years and saying, I want to buy this Picasso. Can I get this painting into my room? He needs to, in this concrete case, kind of make a proposal. He can either get just a voting on and makes making an offer, and we have drag along rights for existing investors. Other possibilities, you can get more than 2/3 of all tokens and then perform a squeeze out. So this is really kind of creating new aspects compared also to pure ownership tokens where we started beginning of this year. And I guess another important aspect is like the optionality on trading. Secondary market, it's just about to start, in particular for security tokens. But the message is it's an option on liquidity. There's no guaranteed liquidity yet, but we're growing this kind of opportunity, these options, and this is kind of summarizing this pioneering aspect. So this is just a quick overview, kind of about the facts and figures of such a tokenization. So this painting was roughly worth, or is currently valued at $4.5 million US. We created 4,000 fungible tokens. We front-loaded all the costs. So if you buy such a token, you pay the nacho of 8.9%. And this is exactly also the message that I want to highlight. At the end of the day, traditional vehicles in the art space create costs for an investor of roughly 20 to 25%, according to our clients. And we made the achievement that we could bring down this cost to 8.9%. So that's the reason why we're tokenizing, why we choose direct ownership, why we choose an ownership token like an AST. This is quickly a glance on this operating model. So we started with an owner of the artwork. Then we went into the book building phase where investors were committing their subscription. After token sale, that's the state where we're now. We have the fractional ownership. So one part of the asset is still with the issuer because he's still believing in this, in the value appreciation of this Picasso painting. But we have fractional owners that are now co-owners of this artwork. Point 4 and point 5 are summarizing the points that I mentioned before. For example, the option of a squeeze out, option of a drag along if a third party wants to buy the whole Picasso. And after a cliff of 5 years, we're moving to the final exit where the art piece is either being sold, auctioned off, or just sold or taken over by someone else. Last point for today, understanding crypto prerequisite for successful tokenization. Sounds a bit complicated, but the message here is, we often get the question, what or how is actually an NFT valued? And we tried to kind of bridge the gap to the traditional world. So imagine you go to the Louvre and you see the Mona Lisa. This is the original, it has a tremendous value, but it's just one piece. You take a picture of that, you go to kind of a professional Photoshopper or kind of Photoshop, and you create a copy of the Mona Lisa, put it to your wall at home. What's the value of this Mona Lisa copy? Even if it's more or less professionally copied, the value is like nothing compared to the original. Same is like in the digital space. We can create, for example, a crypto punk or a crypto kitty or whatever, or an ape, and if you are the owner of the original, you have a higher value compared to just the digital twin, which is like a copy of it. This is also related to the cost to copy, which then further increases and supports the price of an NFT at the end of the day. To summarize for today, we learned about 5 key success factors which are important to make digital art an innovation and not a Tulip Mania bubble that bursts. What we are observing these days is significant growth, be it from questions, from requests, from projects that are about to be kicked off, and it definitely cannot be ignored. NFTs, digital art, ASTs, it's live, it's real. Second point, there's a huge potential for mass adoption. So we just read yesterday about Facebook turning into Meta, and this whole metaverse and the kind of metaverse environment is also pushing and creating new opportunities, also in particular also in the NFT space. Therefore, it's important to focus on trust and security. I mentioned try non-compliance. I guess it's not a good idea. And the third point, there are still risks. Be aware that there are risks. It's a young technology. I mentioned there are new protocols. There are risks related to that, and it's a young market. And I'll leave the question to you. Will the bubble burst? I want to say thank you and leave you with the question for today. When is your first tulip in your portfolio? Thanks a lot for your attention.